primary debate for the Republican candidates. We're so glad you could make it this evening. We have all four of the candidates for the 115th District with us here this evening. And I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves when they have their opening statement. My name is Dr. Jeff Weber. I'm the chair of the Political Science Department. And also monitoring the debate tonight will be Dr. Adam McGlynn, who is an assistant professor in the Political Science Department and also coordinator with the American Democracy Project. The debate this evening is going to consist of a set of opening statements. Each candidate will get a chance to make an opening statement. And then we have a set of 6 questions that we're going to go through and ask each of the candidates, and they have a chance, 2 minutes to respond to the question. When they get to the 1-minute mark, I will be raising a finger to let them know it's at 1 minute. No buzzers or lights here, sorry. And then just stop to let them know that their time's up. I am going to ask all of you in the audience, if you would please be polite and courteous at all times. And if you need to get up at any time to leave, please don't let the doors slam. It does tend to slam, and that can distract. We are also going to be videotaping this evening. And so I'm going to give Tom Geffers a copy of it so that he could post it as a streaming video on the Republican website. Also, each of the candidates will be able to get a copy of it. So hopefully, you will have a good evening, and you'll all learn more about the 4 Republican candidates. And with that now, we'll go ahead and get started. Give your opening statements.
Thank you. And thank you, East Stroudsburg University, Political Science Department, the American Democracy Project, and the College Republicans for hosting this event, and Dr. Jeff Weber and Dr. Adam McGlynn for moderating. It's great to be here. I'm David Parker. I was born and raised right here in East Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania. I married my wife Amanda, and we decided to settle in Anne Arundel, Pennsylvania, right near here. And I work at Kramer's Home Centers, which is a family business my great-grandfather started back in 1915. The past 2 years I've been managing our Pocono Summit store. And this past summer, one of my customers came to me and said, I want to place an order for a lumber package to build my own house. And that's great. I love when my customers build their own homes. So I took the directions for the order, and he was going up into Pike County in the Wallenpaupack School District. I said, man, we're losing you. He said, taxes are half what they are down here. So here's a good guy, a nice family, and he's moving to Pike County. We're losing him from Monroe County. And you're seeing more and more of this. People are leaving our area because of the high property taxes. Now, I grew up here. The taxes were reasonable. We had a great quality of life, but that's really being threatened. And it is. It's a lot harder right now than it was even 15 years ago to raise a family in Monroe County. So I decided that now's the time to run for state representative. I sat down with my wife, and we looked at it, and made the decision together, and she supports me wholeheartedly. She can't be here tonight because she's off to Pittsburgh to pick up my 1 daughter from college. We have 5 daughters, by the way. So I said now's the time to do something, because we talked about property tax reform for years, and I want to go down to Harrisburg and get it done. We need to also stop unfunded mandates that the state requires of our schools, which again ends up costing us more money because we don't get the funding to help do that. And we got to fix the funding formulas. It's time that Monroe County got its fair share of state funding for education. And so I'm running so that I can go down to Harrisburg and deal with these critical issues to help Monroe County in the 115th District.
I'm Dr. Anthony Diecidue. I am a 44-year resident of Stroudsburg. My family moved here in 69, 70? 70. That's my mom out there. She corrects me when I make mistakes. I grew up here, spent my formative years here, went to Stroudsburg High School, graduate of Stroudsburg High School. I attended Mansfield University, the Catholic University of America in Washington, D.C., and then finally Pennsylvania College of Optometry. After I was done with my schooling, I came back to the area to open my practice, and I've run a small business for 25 years here in Stroudsburg. I think that's a qualification that is important in any political candidate. When I think about taxes and how to spend the people's money, I think about it the same way I would in my own business. I think, is this in the best interest of my patients or my constituents, spending this money? Is there a better way to do this where I don't have to spend this much money? And how can I save money? How can I conserve? And if any of you have your own small business, you understand these concepts. In addition to that, I was president of the Pennsylvania Optometric Association in 2006, which also gave me some experience in governance. And at the same time, I was school board director of Stroudsburg High School, which also gave me some insight into property taxes and how high they've become, why they've gotten so high, and some ideas on how we can straighten that out and make it better for our taxpayers here in Monroe County. Just like Dave said, people are moving out of this area because of high taxes, and that's just, it's tax, school tax, property tax should not drive people out of their homes. So if I get elected and I go to Harrisburg, I'm going to fight for lower taxes. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Jackie Leonard, and it's a pleasure to be here. I've never before sat in front of a classroom. I've always been out there. I'm born and raised in Northeast PA. I live in the Poconos for the last 12 years. I work for Sanofi Pasteur as a senior lab analyst, and I've worked in the science and technology industry for the last 23 years. At Sanofi Pasteur, we take a great pride in saying that we don't want anybody to die from any vaccine-preventable disease. I take great pride in the work that I do at Sanofi that has led me to do that kind of work in other countries. I travel doing missionary work in Latin America, mostly in Costa Rica and Nicaragua. But while I was out there, I thought to myself, you know, God, I see you doing wonderful things in other countries, but what about my own country? So I didn't want to be somebody that just talks about doing something. I want to be somebody that does something. So I ran for school board at Pocono Mountain School District 3 years ago. You'll hear everybody talk about school taxes and how they're so high and they want to do something about it. But 3 years ago, I told the people in Pocono Mountain that I would do something about it, and I have. The first year on the school board, I saved the taxpayers $23 million without cutting curriculum or programs. Last year and this year, we decreased taxes. We see that here in Monroe County, we are the highest in the state of Pennsylvania in property taxes, and we need to address it. I'm for property tax elimination. Also in Pocono Mountain, I was able to take a budget from a $19 million deficit to an $18 million surplus. It's this kind of fiscal responsibility and tenacity that I want to take to Harrisburg. I won't just be somebody that talks about it, I will be somebody that does it. And I want to be your voice in Harrisburg. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Pete Begley. I'm a candidate for the 115th. I want to thank ESU for hosting this event, and I want to thank all of you for showing up. It shows a civic interest, which we need more of in America. I was born in Manhattan, raised not far from Yankee Stadium in the Bronx. My father was born in Ireland, and my mother's mother in Italy. But there were never Irish or Italian flags in my house, only the American flag. And although they were both in different parties, they were both very patriotic and instilled a great love for America in me. In the late 80s, I got a call from an agent to come out to the Poconos and sub. I'm a musician. It was snowing out here. The violinist didn't want to drive out. He asked me if I wanted to come to the Poconos. It was a Tuesday night. I would have played in Bosnia. So I came out and did a gig. It was great. And he wound up hiring me, and I moved here in the late 90s. I met my beautiful wife, Jamie. She's a native Pennsylvania, from Bethlehem, like the wise men. Every Christmas I go to Bethlehem now. We're raising two wonderful people. One of them's here tonight, Crystal, and the other one's working at Walmart. I got involved in politics from the early 20s. I played a fundraiser for Giuliani when he was running for mayor in New York. Thank God he won. But I've been on the Borough Council in East Stroudsburg, and 17 days into my term, an issue came before us to install more parking meters here on campus. I was outvoted 4-1 on that issue. I voted against additional parking costs for the students of ESU. I was instrumental in not raising taxes this year for the first time in 5 years on the borough, but I've been able to work across the aisle in an area that's not very conservative. I was elected in a heavily Democratic district, the 5th Ward, and I hope to get your vote to go to Harrisburg and make Monroe County a better place to live. Thank you.
We'll now have the first question, and as we had discussed earlier, we'll be alternating who goes first. So, Dr. Diecidue, you will be going first, and all of you had talked about taxes, and the first question does deal with property taxes. So now, for 325 years, Pennsylvania has used property taxes to fund local public education. And for 325 years, residents have complained about the inequity and burdensome nature of property taxes. Now, currently, property tax revenue accounts for $13.7 billion of school district revenue statewide. A recent study showed that Monroe County has one of the highest local tax burdens in Pennsylvania. The state legislature is considering two bills, House Bill 76 and Senate Bill 76, which would phase out property taxes for school districts by replacing them with increased sales and income taxes. If elected as a state representative, would you support the elimination of property taxes? And if so, how would you fund K through 12 education?
That's the big question. Of course, we would support, I think everyone up here would support House Bill 76, Senate Bill 76. There's a drastic inequity in the funding formula for schools. In the 2014-15 proposed budget, which is yet to be adopted, Governor Corbett proposed $12 million for the Stroudsburg School District. Stroudsburg School District has 6,000 students, so that's roughly $2,000 per student. In Philadelphia, it's nearly $1 billion in aid from the state. They have 130,000 students, which comes out to over $7,000 per student, okay? So yes, they have more students, but it's an inequitable formula. That has to be changed. In addition to that, the SB and HB 76 both talk about a couple of different things. The most important is an increase in the sales tax and an increase in income tax. And the third one, redirecting gambling revenue towards the school districts. Gambling revenue alone can account for $500,000. Increasing the income tax, $4.5 million billion, and increasing the sales tax, $5.5 billion. So those things alone are enough to offset school taxes, property taxes for us here in Monroe County. And since we are heavily taxed, and people can't afford to pay their taxes, and that's why a lot of them are leaving the county. These are things that any representative that goes to Harrisburg has to be fighting for.
Thank you. Well, first of all, there's a reason why for 325 years people have complained. The school property tax system is not only unfair, but it's unconstitutional. The burden was never to be put on every homeowner. It was to be put on a landowner or anybody that would use their property for income. The system is so broken that it needs to be eliminated. And therefore, I am for House Bill Senate Bill 76, and I have been from the get-go. House Bill 76 and Senate Bill 76 would eliminate this broken system. And as a school board director, I can tell you it needs to be out of our grasp. We have seen taxes go up in Pennsylvania 146% since 1997. And it's not going to stop with all the other crises coming down the road, like the pension crisis. So this system needs to be eliminated. As Anthony has explained, we would fund it by an increase in the sales tax of 1% and an increase in the earned income tax of 1.2%. This would spread out the responsibility among everybody that came to Pennsylvania. And if you don't want to buy those products, you don't have to buy those products. Now there's a choice about it. This would be enough, more than enough, to fund education.
Thank you. Jackie's right, as is Anthony, and I would commend Jackie for her work on the Pocono Mountain School Board. They've done great things up there in terms of taxes. I'm in favor of HB 76 and have been for a while. I've been on the steering committee of the local Tea Party. We had David Boldinger come and speak on this probably 2.5, 3 years ago. We had Jim Rodkey come and speak on it within the last year, and Lucy Kohowitz gave us an update a couple of months ago. It's an issue that is dear to us, but it's also a moral issue. To me, it is immoral to tax people out of their homes, especially retirees, who already had their children educated, spent the money, played by the rules, and now they're losing their homes because of this oppressive tax. It also destroys initiative for businesses to come here and people to raise their families here. I think the formula works, but if it needs to be tweaked, I'm okay with that. I will compromise, but it has to be eliminated. The taxes here are just so high. I've knocked on hundreds of doors in this campaign season. This is what 85% of the people complain about, first and foremost. Some near tears. And they've wanted a solution for a long time now. We have two strong advocates in Harrisburg for this, in Mario Scavello and Rosemary Brown, who've done admirable work to try to bring relief to Monroe County in terms of school taxes and other areas. I want to join them and bring it over the top. Thank you.
Well, first off, let's remember the first version of HB 76 had a $2 billion shortfall. Now, when HB 76 first came out, I was very skeptical of it. It goes against everything I believe is conservative or Republican. If we have a problem, let's give it to the central government to take care of it. I prefer that we take care of things on our own, but people are hurting. We need to take care of this issue because people are hurting. So I've come around, and we got to take care of this issue, and the state is responsible for education. But we got to deal with this $2 billion shortfall. So everybody was pushing HB 76, and then after it didn't pass, they said, well, the money wasn't there. Now they say it is there. But there's still an amendment. There'll be a hearing on April 30th. Senator Argyle is going to lead that, and I'll be eager to hear what the results are. I got a copy of it here, 23 pages of amendments that they're putting into this bill to ensure that we have enough funding for education. So I support SB 76. I support property tax elimination. But I will not support a bill that shortchanges Monroe County. We've been shortchanged for 23 years since the funding formulas were changed. And I want to ensure that the bill has taxpayer protections in it, that it does provide enough funding for our students in Monroe County. And if it does not have those things, I can't vote for it. I mean, Monroe County has to win on this deal. And I would, if it's not passed before I get there, I would ensure that we get those things done, get the funding formula fixed, have taxpayer protection, and we must stop unfunded mandates.
This question will start with Jackie Leonard. For decades, there has been a major concern about the performance of our K-12 education system. The Common Core standards were developed by the Republican-led National Governors Association in conjunction with Democratic governors, education interest groups, and members of the Obama administration, in order to ensure that all students in every state graduate with the same knowledge and skills. If you were elected as a state representative, would you support Common Core as it is currently being implemented in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania? If not, what steps should Pennsylvania take to ensure K-12 education is providing a proper and necessary education to all children, regardless of where they live in the Commonwealth?
Well, the Common Core issue is very near and dear to my heart. No, I am not in favor of Common Core curriculum. The Common Core curriculum was not designed by any teachers. The implementation of the Common Core process was very botched. As a matter of fact, the head of the teachers' unions, both of them said that this implementation of the Common Core curriculum was worse than the implementation of Obamacare. I've been around and I've talked to teachers all over the place, and they have found there are many issues with the implementation of the Common Core curriculum. Not every child is the same and not one size fits all. The Common Core curriculum came from a UN resolution called Agenda 21, which felt that it was one world government and one size would fit all for everybody. It has a socialist agenda to it and is not the best for our kids. I believe the teachers know what's best for our children, and we should put the power back into the teachers' hands to make the best decisions for you and for them. You guys are the future, and we need to give it to the best people that know how to do the best job, and that's the teachers.
I too am opposed to Common Core. It's another area that we had expert speakers on at the Tea Party recently. You can watch the talk if you go to YouTube, Pocono Tea Party. Just look up the channel. In the 40s, the 50s, America was #1 on the planet in reading, writing, math, science. We were the envy of the world. What happened? What happened? Whatever it is, we need to eliminate it and get back to where we were. Common Core is not the way to get there. Discipline, morality, and a love of knowledge is a way to get there. We've seen the videos probably about Common Core where one of the teachers says, well, if the student says 2 + 2 = 5, he's not necessarily wrong. Well, I hope that student never builds a bridge I have to drive over. He's definitely wrong. You know, but this is, and that teacher doesn't have to worry about being fired. I can assure you of that. It gets worse. So we really need to return to the standards we once set in this great nation. Implement them in the classrooms. How is it that parochial schools can educate children more academically for less money than public schools? They don't include the feel-good mumbo-jumbo. They give the academic rigor necessary to educate a wise populace.
When I was in college, I went on a cross-cultural trip to Jackson, Mississippi. And it was very enlightening. We studied civil rights. We also studied the difference in culture. I was talking to an educator down there. And she talked to me about the standardized tests that are created in New Jersey that everybody has to take. And on one of those tests, it showed a picture of a mountain. And the children were supposed to pick the best way to get on the other side of that mountain. And you could go around it, you could go over it, or you could go through a tunnel. Well, a lot of those children either pick going around or going over it because she told me we don't have tunnels down here. But, you know, up here in the north, we go through tunnels every day, so it's not a big deal to us. But it tells you that to give a standardized curriculum for the whole country may not necessarily apply to everybody the same. There's differences all over. And we have unique teachers, we have highly trained teachers that we hire. And to just give them a standardized curriculum and say, teach this, I mean, what's the point in going out and getting a good education and becoming a teacher? I mean, essentially you're asking them just to be a robot, to give this curriculum that's standardized. They can't have their own creativity. I don't want to stifle the teaching that I know our good teachers can do. I'm friends with a lot of teachers, and they share their frustrations with things going on in the school district. Not just that, but the unfunded mandates I spoke of earlier. I mean, they really want to teach the children. They know how to do it, and it just seems like we're creating more systems to make it more difficult. So I oppose the standardized curriculum.
I'm not gonna be a whole lot different here because I think my colleagues here, myself, we all kind of agree on this issue. Common Core is really not a good idea. When I was on the school board at Stroudsburg School District, I did get some insight into the teachers, and I got to know the teachers really well there. And, you know, the bottom line is we have good teachers, we have good local instructors here, and we need to let them do their job. I hear over and over again how the teachers are complaining because they're teaching to the test. That's all they gotta do, is just make sure the kids pass the test so that they can meet their goals and their curriculum. And it's just, it's sad. It's saddening to see that that's what we've devolved into. And these teachers are bright, enlightening people that really could spark our young people, but they're being held back. And our young people are being held back. The ones that could excel are being held back because they have to be measured the same as the ones that aren't excelling as well. So of course I oppose it, and I would like to see our teachers do their job.
Thank you. All right, continuing along with our education, and speaking of education, we now move to higher education. So over the past 4 years, the state legislature has seen numerous bills introduced regarding the Pennsylvania state system of higher education. One recent measure concerns the ability of state system universities to leave the system and become independent. Additionally, the state assembly has cut the state system budget by 18%, and over the past 2 years has held the funding flat. Given that East Stroudsburg University is a part of the 115th House District and is a major employer within Monroe County, if you were elected state representative, what do you believe is the role of state government in higher education, and what structural and budgetary changes would you advocate for the system?
Oh boy, Dr. Weber has asked the easiest question of the night, hasn't he? Well, somewhere in there, I thought I heard you say that the universities could leave the state system. That was appealing. When institutions are privatized, I'm usually amenable to that idea. I know we've never spent more on education than we have recently. But the kids are suffering. It's incredibly expensive to attend college. And so there has to be a way to find some middle ground there. Of course, in the real world, that's capitalism, the private market, competition. But in state government, that never seems to be the way that's chosen. So I would seek to do that. Of course, being on the Borough Council in East Stroudsburg, a lot of what we deal with has to do with the university. whether it's the housing ordinance that was passed. Again, a lot of it deals with behavior. And I do think that morality has to come back into the classroom, where students are clearly taught right from wrong, that truth is absolute. Things like this. Once again, things that were taught for hundreds of years and made America the strongest, wealthiest, wisest nation in the globe.
Well, state education is very important, higher education for our students. I met with Dr. Welsh a couple months ago now, just to find out what the needs are here and how Harrisburg can best try to meet those needs. Obviously, the budget's been cut here, and she's had to make some tough decisions, as have everybody. But the important thing is to do the most we can for our students. She did talk about some schools desiring to leave PASHE, and for ESU, maybe it would be beneficial too. I don't know, we got a big market right across the river, and if we could do our own thing here and run the university as we would like to, maybe that would be beneficial. I'm not big one way or the other. I'm open to this issue and doing what's best for our students. As I was going around knocking on doors in the neighborhood, I came upon a Republican professor, and her husband was a Democrat. And they both recommended that I speak to Dr. Van Arsdale. So I spoke to her as well about funding for higher education. And one of the things that she shared that was frustrating, and I share the frustration, is, you know, we can get money to build this new building we're going to have right over here, which is millions and millions of dollars, but we can't get the funding to give the programs to our students that may benefit them. So I'd like to see more flexibility with state funds, and I would work to do that so that we can apply dollars where they would have the most impact and be the best benefit to the students. So as a state representative, I would seek to get more funding and more flexible funding so we can use it as we best see fit.
Okay, so from the state, the number one responsibility is to fund K through 12. Second responsibility is community colleges and state colleges. In the 2014-15 budget, Governor Corbett has appropriated $1.6 billion in the current budget for higher education. But since 2009, there are 7,200 less students in colleges in Pennsylvania. So this is a problem. The tuition money that the colleges are used to is not there. So what are we going to do about it? Well, there's a couple things we can do about it. Number one, education is changing. Virtual classrooms are everywhere, and the colleges need to change. They need to change the way they instruct and the way they teach their courses. And if they can change, they can flourish. The other few things that you should do, or colleges should do to increase tuition and decrease expenditures is to, if I go to Harrisburg, I will definitely help for this, is loan forgiveness. I know when I went to college, there were loan forgiveness programs out there that if you worked in an area that needed your special skill, or you took a degree, you got a degree in something that's desperately needed in different parts of the state, your loans would be forgiven over a period of time. This will attract more students, not so that they won't be having this terrible burden of student loans when they graduate. So I think it's a multifactorial way to try to increase the number of students, keeping tuition at reasonable rates, and keeping our higher education colleges afloat.
Well, what you're seeing at ESU is no different than what we see in public school system in general. You have rising costs here with a decrease in enrollment. I believe that there should be more money that's brought in, and Governor Corbett has guaranteed $1.62 billion. But the key here is that when you get the money, how is it being spent? I read recently that ESU and a bunch of other colleges were noted for issues with wasteful spending. So the key here is that we would make sure that the money that is actually coming here to you is spent on the issues and the areas that it should be spent on, the education of you. So we need to make sure that the money that is appropriated here is going to the right things. The second thing is that I really believe that, along with Governor Corbett's programs, I believe that the best thing that we can do is privatize anything. When you put it into the public sector, competition has the best way of bringing forth higher quality and better institutions. You guys are the future. We have to make sure that we provide the best education for you. Governor Corbett has programs called Ready to Succeed scholarship programs and the Pennsylvania Grants for Students that he has released. I would support these things that he has put out to bring money back to higher education for you. This will help middle-class Americans, families, help to be able to bring you and send you to college.
Okay, the next question goes to David Parker. Another major issue of the past few years is natural gas drilling. Governor Corbett has maintained a position of not imposing an extraction tax in order to stimulate economic growth and help produce more jobs. However, a recent study by the Pennsylvania Independent Fiscal Office showed that even with our 9.9% corporate net income tax, which is the highest in the country, the natural gas companies are still paying less in state taxes than in other states with an extraction tax. Given the current state budget situation with a potential $500 million shortfall, there have been several bipartisan proposals for a limited extraction tax. Would you as a state representative support an extraction tax, and if so, how much?
Well, I appreciate you mentioning the corporate tax rate. Everybody else seems to not mention that or gloss over it. And that's the first time I've heard it from someone other than myself. So, thank you. But yeah, we do have the highest corporate tax rate in the country. And it is significant. We do raise a significant amount of revenue from the gas industry. And I've seen many areas benefit. My wife is from Bradford County, and they are definitely benefiting from the industry. There's a lot of jobs being created. So it's very good. I don't have a set amount to tax anything. I don't really like new taxes. I'm open to getting new revenue for the state. I would like to lower the corporate rate so we can draw in more industry into the state in general, and the Poconos would be great. So I'm in favor of a trade-off. I'm certainly, I would be open to a gas tax if we can get something on the corporate tax, if we can lower that. Because I'd love to bring more business to Pennsylvania so we can create more jobs. We definitely need more jobs in the Pocono Mountains and family-sustaining jobs. So I would be in favor of some type of tax shift, if you will. And I believe we'll generate more revenue once we get more jobs here. You can have a high corporate tax rate, but if your companies aren't making any profits, they're not paying it anyway. So it might be better to have a lower rate, more companies making profits and paying taxes.
So, yeah, I kind of agree too. As you said, Pennsylvania has one of the lowest effective tax rates on shale gas extraction. And I would not be opposed to imposing another extraction tax on natural gas, but it has to be tied to education. That money has to go direct to education. And if I get to Harrisburg, that's how I'm going to formulate that. Right now, Pennsylvania is on track to becoming the second largest natural gas producing state in the country. We have some power here, and we're not exercising it. We're not using it properly. Yes, I think that we should be increasing the tax. It should be an extraction tax, and it should be tied directly to education funding.
I'd like to just be clear on one thing. I don't believe introducing any tax is the right way to generate revenue. at the Marcellus Jail is one of the best institutions, gas drilling places that has come about. They have provided almost 400,000 jobs to the area. The way that we increase revenue is by creating more jobs and having people, flourish and prosper as a result of that. When they prosper, so does the economy around them. The Marcellus Shale is doing wonderful things for the area, such as rebuilding the infrastructure. I am not for a gas tax in any way. We saw recently what happened to Monroe County with the transportation tax and the gas tax that was just instituted. Our price of gasoline went up, and we still have roads that are in disrepair. When we send money to Harrisburg, we're not guaranteed we're going to get it back, and it's going to go to the right things. We need to leave that area alone and let them have their impact fee that they pay. That money from the impact fee goes to the local areas where they can take care of the situations that are happening locally in their areas. Every time we ask Harrisburg or Washington to get involved in a situation, it doesn't end up well. So we need to leave well enough alone, and thank God that we have a business that's coming in here that can provide natural gas to flourish this country, where we'll have energy independence, and we won't be tied to Saudi Arabia and have to deal with all the other issues. I think having them come here, they have provided great quality jobs. The starting salary there is $70,000. That is not your typical minimum wage situation. So this is actually a good thing. And fracking has been around since 1940, and the Pennsylvania Department of Education is even backing it. I'm not sorry, Department of Protection, Environmental Protection.
Well, the extraction tax, I guess if you put an appealing word before the word tax, it eases everyone's conscience. When do they get to the exhaling tax and tax my breathing? Because they just never stop. They just put a pretty word in front of it, and here's a new tax. And the money's going to go to little Johnny. We guarantee, and it doesn't go to little Johnny. So no, this is a new industry. Let's let it blossom before we start with all new taxes. It's generating great wealth. I heard Governor Corbett speak last year at Shawnee, and he talked about the great riches of energy that Pennsylvania has. He went to Europe and spoke to nations there that are interested in coming here. But with our corporate tax rate, that's bad enough. To add a new tax into the mix, this is going to repel companies that want to locate here, bringing great jobs with them. North Dakota has a lower than 1% unemployment rate. A cashier at Walmart is making $17 an hour. They don't have a minimum wage problem there, and they sure don't have an unemployment problem. But they're not taxing the industry heavily that is creating these circumstances. And this is what we want to emulate in Pennsylvania. Let's bring the wealth creators to this state while protecting the environment. Thank you.
Our next question concerns pension reform. One of the major pressures on the state budget is maintaining the state employees' retirement system and the public school teachers' retirement system. According to Governor Corbett, the total unfunded liability exceeds $40 billion. The governor has proposed a plan that would create a different pension plan for all new employees, which would become a defined contribution plan, and would alter the benefits formula for some of the existing employees. As a state representative, would you support the governor's proposal, or do you have an alternative for addressing the pension situation?
Actually, the pension situation right now is underfunded by $47 billion as of today. The state was not making contributions for over 10 years, and that's what got us into this mess that we're in right now. So some people are saying that no matter what we do, there is no fix for this problem, because it's just too much money. But I think with a little responsible governance, we can fix this over time. It's going to take time, but I think it can be done. I think we need to establish defined contributions, 401k type plans for new workers. 401k type plans are actually desirable because they offer two things. They offer portability, so you can take it from one job to another, and they give the person, the employee, long-term control over their own money. We need to prohibit new borrowing schemes and just keep them out of the pension funds. And let's just face it, common sense. Fund the pensions consistent with good accounting rules. And if we do those things, I think in time we can solve this nightmare that is the pension fund.
Well, I live and breathe this issue every day as a school board director. At Pocono Mountain, we saw that our retirement contribution this year was 21%. That meant about $4 million extra that you had to pay to fund this. Next year, the amount that you will have to pay, that we will have to pay, is 31%. This issue is very, very, very serious. And if we don't do something about it immediately, you're not going to just see your taxes increase $100, but you're going to see them increase by the thousands. As everybody has stated, this fund is $47 billion short. It goes back to when Governor Rendell was the governor. He did not put $42 billion into this fund. I feel bad for the teachers and the state employees that have sown into this. They should have the money that they put out, and this should not be a situation that they are in. I agree with Tony in what he said, that 401ks and defined contributions is a better way to go. I feel strongly that you should be able to control where your money goes and what you put it in. So I would support what Governor Corbett is talking about with the defined contribution.
Well, you both spoke well on the subject, and I'm in agreement. Promises made must be promises kept. These folks work long careers for their pensions. Whatever side of the political aisle they're on, they're deserving of that. That must be protected. Going forward, however, things do need to change. We've got to tighten the purse strings a little bit and have folks contribute a little bit more to their pensions and give them options on how to control it. Mm-hmm. It's true that Governor Rendell was aware of this problem and neglected to address it. And so we've inherited a catastrophe. Governor Corbett has been addressing it, and we need the solutions that are being proposed by that administration. One thing that we find is a lot of this is municipal unions. And this is something even FDR, the great hero of the left, was opposed to. And it's a vicious cycle. They elect one party, that party gives them money, they spend money, and elect that party again. That needs to change. And the Republican Party needs to reach out to the other side there and bring them in to the party of individual rights and liberty. Thank you.
When I decided to run for state representative, one of the things I decided to do was to decline the state pension. And I signed a form that I will decline it. Because for myself, I don't want to participate in a system that's broken. I do want to convert it to a defined contribution plan, and so I would support that measure. We definitely need to meet the obligations of those we've made promises to for their pensions. And I would need to read the whole bill that the governor is proposing. I hope, you know, it sounds like you would transition some people to a 401k plan. And I don't know what that cutoff is, if they have a choice to do it or not. But if they have a choice, I would certainly be in favor of it. But if we've already made an obligation to them, to give them something, we need to meet that obligation. So we have to address the pension issue. I'm prepared to do that. I want to do that, and to make the hard choices and to fund it properly. So yes, I would support that, and I would support going to a defined contribution plan, because going forward, I don't see how we can sustain the defined benefit plans, as many of us are living longer, and we'd be collecting pensions on, and we just don't have the funds to support that.
Our next question is on the topic of open space, a little more focused on Monroe County. Recently, the Monroe County Planning Commission released for public comment the Monroe 2030 Comprehensive Plan. A component of the plan is the continued support for open space. Obviously, we know the Poconos has always been known as a tourist community. It's been valued for its wonderful natural resources. If you are elected state representative, would you support state policies that enable county governments to pursue open space programs? And if so, how would you balance that with economic development?
Well,
No.
oh, sorry.
Wow. This is an interesting issue. Well, there has to be balance. You know, right now in Monroe County, all these open space landmarks that have been declared are taking money off the tax rolls. And that is going to really, really hurt Monroe County, the school districts in the area. Economic development is really, really important. And we suffer here in Monroe County. We're not a business-friendly area. We need to bring jobs into this area. We need to bring businesses into this area. Monroe County is one of the most key locations in the state of Pennsylvania, and actually in the Northeast. It's located in the Baltimore-Washington corridor. So businesses want to move here. There's a 6-hour drive to any major city from here. However, from a standpoint, from the time that they get a permit to come here, from the time they can break ground is over 2 years. With the high school property taxes and this delay in the permitting process is deterring them. Now we're taking away land that they can possibly use, and now we're taking away land that will generate income and revenue to this county. Yes, I believe there should be some open space places, but I think that this needs to be really looked at more clearly. I feel that some of these parties that are interested have too much power, and we need to look and address that.
Thank you. My apologies for jumping the gun
It's
there.
okay.
We live in the Poconos for a reason. It's beautiful here. The nature is just wondrous. God has blessed this land. One thing I notice, I come across a good deal on the borough council, is the regulation from FEMA, from DEP, EPA. I am the councilor from the 5th Ward, which covers Buttonwood Court. And the flood zone has been expanded so that the folks that live within 50 feet of the Broadhead cannot put a new mobile home on that footprint. When that mobile home deteriorates, they gotta go. Doesn't matter if they've been here 6 generations, they gotta go. Why? Because of regulation. No regulation without representation. So the open spaces, again, I'm a little leery. It takes land off the tax rolls, as Jackie said. I remember seeing a letter to the editor in the Pocono Record after sequestration, where a woman had written that she voted for land being given to open spaces. And when she wanted to use it, it was closed by the president that said, make it hurt. I don't want to give more of that into their hands without seriously considering all the ramifications. Thank you.
I believe as I heard the question, it was whether, maybe could you repeat it?
If you were elected state representative, would you support state policies that enable county governments to pursue open space programs? And if so, how would you balance it with economic development?
Okay. Well, certainly I like counties having the authority to run their county as they want, and I don't like the state telling them what to do. You know, in Stroud Township, we voted to have a new tax, require open space. I didn't vote for it, but enough people did that it passed. Hamilton, at the same time, voted one down. But the people decided that that's what they wanted to do, and so in Stroud, that's what's happening. It is a problem. We're taking properties off the tax rolls. A golf course I used to play at quite a bit is now township property, and we're not getting any revenue from it. So it is a problem, but the people decided that's what they wanted to do. So I don't like to dictate what a community should do. If a community wants to do something like that, they're free to do it. The people that live there can decide this isn't for us and make another decision. So I have no problem allowing communities to treat their space as they wish.
I come from more of a historical perspective in that I've seen this area grow from, well, I was here before the mall was here, okay? That's a pretty long time ago. And I do believe in open space, but I'm a businessman, and I believe in small business, and I believe in good jobs for our community members. Any of us who get elected are going to serve at the will of our district. If our district says they want more open space, then that's what I'm going to go fight for. Yes, business is important, jobs are important, but do we really need another strip mall? Do we need another low-paying department store? You know, those are the kinds of things. You talked about balance. That's where we have to strike a balance, is what do the people want, number one, that's the first and foremost, and secondly, is it the best thing for our area? The Poconos is a beautiful place. I've lived here my whole life. I want to see it stay that way. I don't want to see it turn into a giant strip mall from Stroudsburg all the way up to Mount Pocono, which is kind of what it's turning into in some respects. So yes, I think county government should be the final determinator on this, and I think the people should let their voices be heard, and what the people want is what I'll go to Harrisburg to do.
Thank you. We will now have your closing statements.
I want to thank you all for attending tonight. It's been informative and enlightening. I want to go to Harrisburg to fight for Monroe County, which has just been getting shortchanged for a long time. We all want to lower property taxes, but there's so much that Washington is doing right now that is beyond our grasp. One of the areas I'm in favor of is Article 5 of the U.S. Constitution, which empowers the state legislatures to be the final word, not a justice of the Supreme Court, but the people being their own rulers, as America was set up to be. And we do have an opportunity here that should one of us be elected in November, and Mario Scavello get elected to the Senate, and Jack Rader or Jim Becker be elected, that we will double our strength in Harrisburg. Well, we have 2 representatives now. We would have 3 representatives and 1 senator. I think this would be really, really good for us to have fiscal conservatives in Harrisburg advocating for the people of the Poconos, which is so desperately needed. I've been a borough councilor. I've been pro-First Amendment, pro-Second Amendment, and pro-Fourth Amendment. My record is there. If you go to votepetebegley.com, you could see the minutes. Unlike the others up here, I don't have to tell you how I intend to vote. You can check my record and know that I vote a certain way. And get outvoted 5-1, plenty. However, I do reach across the aisle in other areas. That the mayor is a staunch Democrat in East Stroudsburg, beloved by the people, he's a great guy. We wind up agreeing quite a bit on certain things. But I want to go to Harrisburg to restore the greatness of America, which is always in the people. And I hope you'll vote for me on May 20th and again in November. Thank you for your time, and God bless America.
Well, thanks for hosting this event, and it's great, thank you everyone for coming. It's great to have the opportunity to share our views. Well, when I decided to make this run, I've looked at the area I grew up in, and I had a great time growing up here, and decided to raise my family here as well. One of the things my parents taught us was to serve our community, and I've had the opportunity to do that through, well, my church growing up, Middle Smithfield Presbyterian, but also my mom was very active in the Salvation Army Board, and every Christmas she took us down to Salvation Army to help hand out the food baskets. And as I've come back to the area, I've also participated in that. I'm on the Salvation Army Board, and we work very hard to meet the needs of those most in need in our community. And it's been neat as I've raised my children here. There was a time our soccer team was going to collect money out in front of ShopRite, and the superintendent said, "We're not doing those tag days anymore." So I suggested, well, why don't we ring the bell for the Salvation Army? So the soccer team did that, and it was very gratifying for everyone that did it. That was the same day I had to run up to Toby Hanna to pick up the toys for Tots and bring them down, and I called up my kids because we needed a little more help unloading it, and they came over. So they got to help unload all the toys for the children. And it was a great day. They got to serve in a couple ways, and it's neat to serve your community. So I see this new seat open up, and it's a new opportunity to serve Monroe County. And I see the issues that we're facing, and as far as I'm concerned, the biggest thing that I want to focus on is getting property tax reform, stopping unfunded mandates, and fixing the 23-year-old funding formulas that have punished Monroe County growth. And that's what I want to go to Harrisburg to do. I need your help, I need your support, and most of all, I need your vote on May 20th and November 4th. Thank you.
I'd also like to thank everybody for showing up tonight. This was actually kind of very interesting, and I've enjoyed myself, and I'm sure my colleagues up here have, and I hope you have too. You know, being a longtime resident, being a businessman in the area for so many years, and raising my kids here, my two kids, people ask me, why are you doing this? You know, I could just retire, I could just cruise out nice and easy, but you know, it's kind of in the blood, and I feel that this time in my life, this is the right thing to do. My practice is on cruise control. My kids are out of the house. I can devote 100% of my time, my effort to this job. Yes, I've seen Monroe County, I've seen Stroudsburg go through many, many changes in the last 44 years. Some of them good, some of them not so good. But when you go to the polls on May 20, what you have to ask yourself is this person going to get the job done? And I hope at least some of what you heard tonight will convince you that I'm the person that will get the job done. But either way, that's what you want to look at when you go to the polls, because I can't promise you that I'm going to do this, that, or the other thing. I can promise you that I'm going to work hard. And any of you that know me know that I'm a hard worker. When I get to Harrisburg, I will represent the 115 district along with whoever gets elected for the 176 and Rosemary Brown and Mario Scabello. And between all of us, we will get Monroe County fair treatment from Harrisburg. Thank you.
I care. You really matter to me. I love Monroe County, and I want to be a voice for the people who have no voice. And when wrongs have been committed, I want to fight and make them right. I have a proven track record. And over the past 3 years, when I started, I told the people that I would address the school property tax issue. And I have followed through to my promise. When I get to Harrisburg, I will fight for you. I will bring a common sense approach to government. I'm for less regulations and less government interference. I believe that the power is in the states. I I'm not a career politician, and I don't want to be one. I believe in term limits. I want to get in there, work hard for you. I want to take what I've accomplished on the school board, where I've brought fiscal responsibility into an area. I want to bring that to Harrisburg. I want to take the skills of making the government work, do more for less. I want to hold the line on taxes and reduce debt, and most of all, I want to let the job creators grow our economy. I believe in you, and I would appreciate if you would vote for me this May. Thank you.
And with that, that concludes our debate. Let's give a round of applause. And thank you all very much for attending.